Now I will talk about the cmath library. We have already talked about libraries a little bit in our previous videos, what exactly a library is and what it stores, but now we will actually use one of those libraries. And the name of that library is cmath. But before we talk about libraries, let me give you a very brief introduction about functions. We will learn more about functions later in this course, but for now, if I have to give you a very brief introduction, then we can take help from the concept of maths. In maths, you have done functions like this, right? So if you have to declare f of x, which is a function like this, so you are defining f of x as 2x squared plus 3x plus 5. Now you can plug in any value of x and the value of f of x will be calculated accordingly. But everywhere it will follow the same expression. Just that the final calculation will be different because of the value of x. You can give any value of x and it will be calculated in the similar way, but you will get different values. The same thing happens in programming. When we use a function, we have a specific meaning that is already defined for us for that function. Now we will plug in certain values that that particular function requires. So this is f of x only. So you need to provide the value for x only. Suppose you had a function f of x comma y, then you had to provide the value for x as well as y. Same thing happens in functions in programming as well. The function tells you how many input values it requires. And as you provide the input values, it gives you certain output values. So when we will use the cmath library, we will make use of some functions which are already written for us. We will just be using them in our programs and we will get the result. We will not worry about the code that is there behind this function, how this function is written for us. We will just use them and provide the required input values to these functions. So the first function that you will use is the sqrt function. The meaning of this function is written in the cmath library. So now when we are making use of this new library, we will have to include that library in the beginning of our program. If you remember, for the last few programs, we only wrote hash include iostream and then using namespace std. Now, since we are using some functions which are written in the cmath library, we will have to add this line hash include cmath because this is the library that we are using now. Now, I'm declaring a variable called num and I'm just storing some value into this variable num and then I'm trying to find the square root of this number. This sqrt function finds the square root of a number. So I am creating a new variable called sq underscore root, that is the square root, and here I am storing the result of this function and then I'm passing the value num as a parameter for this function. So just like f of x, in place of x, I'm writing num here because num contains this value 25. And this sqrt function will calculate the square root of 25 for me because the code for this sqrt is written somewhere in my cmath library. So when I will use this name here, it will automatically use that code and will calculate the square root for me. Okay, so these are the libraries that are written for you. Later on, you will learn how to create your own library where you will have functions written by you and then you can use those functions in your program. So when I run this code, I will get this output 5 because 5 is the square root of 25. In cmath library, there are multiple such functions written for us and all those functions are math related functions that we can make use in our programs so that our life becomes easier. If you remember when we did all those expression calculations before, when we were doing cube of something, square of something, we were actually multiplying the variable again and again by itself so that we get the square of that number or cube of that number. So when we were trying to find x cube, we were doing x multiplied by x multiplied by x. Now we don't need to do that anymore because we have the cmath library. We can use another function that calculates power of a number given the base and the exponent. So we will have to provide, when you are calculating a power, there should be two inputs, right? One is the base and the exponent. So when you are calculating x square, x is your base and 2 is your exponent. Here I am trying to calculate the square of 25. So I will use this pow function. This function is called pow. That is the short form of power. We will use this pow function and I need to provide the two input values that it requires. The first one is num, which is the base, and the second one is the exponent, which is 2 in this case. So now if I run this code and if I print the value of power, because that's the variable which is storing the result that is sent by this function. Look at this line very carefully. This assignment operator is actually storing the result that this function is calculating into this variable called power. Okay, so now if I print the value of power, it will actually give me the square of 25, which is 625. So let's try these things out a little bit. Let's do some coding. Let me take a variable, say a, and let it store 10. Okay. And I will take another variable b. I will just store pow of a, comma 5. Okay. And to use this pow function, I will have to include the cmath library. So hash include cmath. Now I can use the pow function because now it will make sense to the compiler. And then I'm doing this. First of all, let me print the value of the cout. The value of b is this. Let's see what we are getting. We are getting this. And that should be your output, right? 10 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10. So there should be 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, we got that. Now you can store the value of b into a after finding the square root of that number like this. b is equal to sqrt. Sorry, a is storing the value sqrt of b. What should we get here? What exactly is b holding right now? b is holding the value 1 0 0 0 0 0, 5 zeros after 1. That is the value of a to the power of 5. Now I'm finding the square root of b and storing back that result into the variable a. Now let's see what will be the value of a. This is the value of a, 316. Let me try to do the square root and see if we are getting that. Square root of 1 0 0 0 0 0. 5 zeros? Yes. Square root of this number. That is 316.2277 and then a big number. But we only got 316. Again, we have declared int a. We have declared a as integer and b also as integer. That's why this decimal part got removed. Okay. So you can try these things out on your own and see how you can make use of these different math functions in your program. And there are other functions as well. This one is for power calculation. This one is for square root calculation. And then there are other functions like sine and cosine. And you can try those out as well. So let me try one here. Cout. We all know that sine 90 degree is 1, right? Sine of 90 degree. So let's try that. Sine 90 and then print the result. I'm directly printing the result here without storing it into another variable. We should be getting 1, but we got this, which is 0.893997. That's because these functions are written in cmath library in a way that they accept values in radians only. So here, if I try to give 90 degree, it will not be able to recognize that as a degree number, and that's why it is considering 90 as the radians value, not the degree value. So it is giving me this as the output because it is considering 90 as the radians value. So if you want to get 1, then you will have to convert it into degree and then you can get the actual value. And how do you convert radians to degree? So you will have to do this. The degree value that I have here is 90. I need to convert it into radian. So the radian value will be degree multiplied by m pi, which is the pi value I have declared here as a constant, that pi divided by 180. That's the formula for converting degree to radian. And then I will pass the radian value here, right? This is how we convert a degree value to radian. If you forgot that, then just revise trigonometry a little bit. And after this calculation, I'm passing this variable that is storing my radian equivalent of 90 degree. Now, if I run this code, let's see what we are getting. I got this. Why? Let me try to figure out. The problem here is I have defined radian as integer, so that's why it did not get the actual value. So let me make it double. And now, as I have converted it to double, and let me run this again, still giving me that. Is it because, yes, I think it's because pi. I have declared it in a wrong way. First of all, the keyword const should be like this. The first keyword should be const, and then it should be double, not integer. That's why it was not getting the correct value of pi. It was getting 3. Now it is perfect. Now I got 1 here. So you can make mistakes when you are writing programs. You will have to learn how you can debug your code. You will have to have patience and go through your code again and again to find out where exactly you are going wrong. And also you need to think logically. Similarly, you have the cosine function, and there are multiple other functions. You can search those functions online. What are the different functions under cmath library? But mostly we will be using square root and pow. So after practicing all these problems, you already know about operators and operands a little bit. So far, you have seen arithmetic operators, the plus, minus, division, multiplications, all those operations. And those operations are performed by the arithmetic operators, right? You have seen the assignment operator that assigns some value into a variable. And there are other kinds of operators which are logical operators. We have not used those logical operators yet, but you will use that very soon. I will explain logical operators in my next video. So there are different kinds of operators that operates on different types of operands. So when we write the expression 2 plus 2, the plus is the operator, 2 and 2 are the operands. When you are writing an assignment operation, your assignment operator, the equal sign is the operator, and the value that you are assigning and the variable where you are assigning, both are the operands. And then you have logical operators or logic operators that we will explore in the next video.